Do-rag wisdom, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again to Y2K 20.07.16, 110 days out. Fake Senate impeachment trial, no vindication, no adjudication, no exoneration. Repeat, get this traitorous, sociopathic, murdering fiend out of our lives this election. Please do not pay attention to the polls. The only poll that is important is the one we go to on election day. When the news says that only 35% approve of Trump, they make a big mistake when they don't use real whole numbers. 35% of registered voters who support Trump in real whole numbers is around 60 to 75 million, give or take. And I've said this many times before. And unlike the liberal side, these people will not equivocate on election day, as we liberals usually do. These 60 to 75 million voters will all 100% be out on election day to vote for their Hitler. They will bank, as Trump does, on the fact that many registered voters will stay home on election day. That happened in Y2K16. They also are hoping that liberals will shun Biden and either support a third-party candidate or simply write in Mr. Spock on their own. So I care little what the polls say, because no matter how crude, no matter how rude, no matter how sociopathic, 65 to 70 million people in our country are going to get out and vote for their little Hitler. The news should stop using real numbers as percentages. Instead, they should use them as whole numbers people understand and really be afraid of. So they will not just walk to the polls in droves, they will run to them, or hopefully there'll be a mail-in situation to make it as easy on us in this pandemic as possible. Trump promised to pick the best people. He should have been more specific. The best people for a sociopath are those that are corrupt, and those who believe in raping our Mother Earth, those who kowtow to him. The Orwellian nature of the Trump administration was always obvious to me. All the cabinet posts, their titles and the like are the opposite of what they are supposed to be. The EPA is now for poisoning the environment instead of protecting it. And the Education Secretary stands for ignorance instead of knowledge. And worse than that, she and her personal Hitler want to send our children back to school while the CV-19 pandemic still stalks us to death. Trump has picked the best people for him, not for us. Because Trump is a sociopath, he has mishandled the pandemic and has murdered 136,000 plus citizens of our country, plus 3,000 Puerto Ricans during Hurricane Maria, and regarding the latter, thousands more beyond that in Puerto Rico are dead from the CV-19 pandemic. And Trump is a sociopath because he just does not care except for himself. I knew that when this nation stayed at home in Y2K16, that was 50% of us, and did not vote, so that a dangerous sociopath took charge, that it was going to get ugly for us. Well, it has gotten really ugly, and the Trump Nazi term is not even over yet. We have from now until Y2K 21.01.22 thereabouts for this monster to do even more damage and to murder even more people. You see the monsters I have on my shirt? Look at them. I love these monsters. These monsters only kill us in our imagination. And you know something? I'd rather have them president than the creep that's in there now. And by the way, for you religious fanatics out there, And I'm not talking about the real people that believe what they want to believe and don't hurt anybody else. If you want to believe in a god, then I have a right to believe in Count Dracula and the Wolfman if I want to. Shame on us if we allow this murdering fascist monster to be reelected. Shame, shame, shame. Do you have your useless fallout shelter yet, by the way? Available for your habitation? It is going to get even uglier. Trump and his maggots hate Dr. Fauci. He's not perfect. Nobody's perfect. He is the one of the few giving us the information that will save our lives. Trump and his maggots want to see us all dead. The Trump administration has issued an executive order that they want all hospitals to send CV-19 information directly to the HHS instead of to the Centers for Disease Control. Make it more political. Make it more under control. Trump and his maggots want to control the information that gets to us. Anyone who supports Trump inadvertently supports the murder of all of us from CV-19. Trump hopes that the people who survive will only vote for him. Screw the collateral damage. All those supporters of his will also die from this disease. Those left, maybe there'll be enough to put them over the edge. Win, win, win. Look at our country now, ladies and gentlemen. Look at it, savor it, remember it, because it may not be here by next inauguration day. The music in the background, The Seventh Sin by Miklos Rosa. Whenever I encounter a Trump voter, I am careful how I interact with them. I've run into some of the nasty ones and know how to reply to them. When they praise the creep, I simply tell them that as a Jew, I do not vote for Nazis. I've never had any one of these people argue with me when I say this. They simply walk away. And I am glad. But there are others who voted for Trump that I've met who happen to be intelligent and nice people. These I call the buyer's remorse Trump voters. These are people who voted for Trump because they sincerely believed that he was going to be different. I could have told them differently. As a resident of New York City for 46 years, I knew exactly the kind of dangerous creep Trump was and is. Trump simply depended on ignorance, anger, and apathy to help him into the White House. And by the way, they should paint the White House black and call it the Black House for the next 240 years at least. Why not the Yellow House, or the Red House, or the Green House? Why White House? It's ingrained, see, it's all ingrained. I'm happy to report that the buyer remorse Trump voters have organized into a national movement called Republican Voters Against Trump. We also have the Lincoln Project. You can look them up on the web, and the Republican Voters Against Trump, as well as the Lincoln Project, I think, have a Facebook page. I intend to post there and lend my support. Look, folks, I consider myself a democratic socialist, but I am not politically correct. I am not an orthodox. I happen to be against totalitarianism. And if we eliminate the Republican Party and have only one party, we are totalitarian instead of democratic. I have a lot of respect for real conservatives. I may not agree with them, but that is the so-called spice of life. Everyone is different, and once we respect each other in spite of our differences, we can build a better way of life. There are two types of conservatives: fiscal and social. It is unfortunate that social conservatives have overrun the GOP and are now sending it in the direction of religious, extremist, theocratic totalitarianism. I believe that the true conservatives are the fiscal ones. These are the folks who follow three conservative principles: smaller government, fiscal restraint, and individual responsibility. The latter, by the way, was part of the Affordable Care Act, individual responsibility. That was one of the first things that the Trump administration got rid of to cripple the Affordable Care Act. I'm happy that I can name at least 10 conservatives that I may disagree with but admire and respect. I've named some of these in previous broadcasts. Republican voters against Trump, along with the conservative Lincoln Project, are fighting to make sure our country remains a democracy intact. Republican voters against Trump especially get my respect because they are still calling themselves Republicans in spite of the Trump bastard. This group understands that in our two-party republic, we need two parties. Anything less is not democracy. Anything less is totalitarian Trumpist crap. I do not agree with conservatism, but understand that the Trumpist maggot and his followers are not anywhere near conservative. They are something else, something alien, something treasonous, and something insane.